On Christmas Eve, a billionaire dad discovers amazing wisdom from a homeless woman. A life-changing encounter. Mark Thompson sat at the grand dining table, a feast fit for kings spread before him. Golden candlesticks gleamed off opulent china, and the aroma of roasted turkey danced in the air. His children, seated across from him, were more engrossed in their phones than in each other or their father. The laughter that once filled his home had been replaced by buzzing notifications, and Mark felt an unsettling emptiness gnawing at his core. How did it get to this? Wasn't he living the American dream? A sprawling mansion, luxury cars, and a family that looked perfect on the outside. Yet, beneath the facade of wealth, his heart thumped a lonely rhythm, echoing in the empty corners of his soul. As he watched his kids tear into gifts, the joy on their faces felt hollow against the backdrop of their distance. After dinner, feeling restless, Mark stepped into the frigid night. The streets were dimly lit, the festive hustle fading into a quiet brushed with loneliness. A chill ran down his spine, but it wasn't just the cold. It was a yearning for something real, something he couldn't buy. That's when he saw her grace, a figure wrapped in layers of worn clothing, with a spirit that shone brighter than any ornament on his tree. "Why aren't you home on Christmas?" she asked softly, her voice carrying an unexpected warmth. Mark faltered. He was living in a gilded cage, while she faced harsh realities with grace and poise. As they talked, Grace shared stories woven with hope, resilience, and love. "It's not about what you have, but who you have beside you," she said, her eyes sparkling with wisdom. Mark felt his heart tighten. Each story she shared unveiled a kindness he had long dismissed. Before he knew it, he discovered Grace had inspired his daughter to create a small charity project aimed at helping others. The crushing weight of realization hit him. He had belittled her idea, cocooned in his world of materialism and success. He hadn't taken the time to understand or appreciate the love and dreams blooming in his own home. In that moment, he stood at the edge of an emotional precipice. Should he continue to hustle for wealth, or could he embrace the transformative power of Grace's lessons? He felt an urge to bridge the emptiness of his family life. "Let us make a feast," Mark declared suddenly, startling himself with the loudness of his determination. "Not just for us, but for Grace and others like her. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Mark hurried home to make preparations, doubt crept in alongside hope. Could his family welcome this sudden shift? Would they understand his newfound need for connection? The clock ticked ominously, shadows on the walls whispering reminders of the past. In a world that thrived on materialism, could he find joy in something as simple as shared bread and laughter? With anticipation and dread swirling in his heart, Mark prepared for a Christmas that could redefine him and his family forever. Little did he know, the festive spirit awaited at his doorstep, ready to light the way to reconciliation. Would he summon the courage to embrace it? Mark burst through the front door, a flurry of determination fueling him. The familiar warmth of his grand home wrapped around him like a blanket, but it felt different now. Each corner contained echoes of laughter now muffled and obscured by technology and distraction. Mark moved swiftly, his mind racing with ideas of how to engage his family in this unexpected journey. "Kids!" he called out, a blend of eagerness and hesitation in his voice. "Come to the kitchen. We have something special to do." His children glanced up from their screens, puzzled. Emily, his teenage daughter, arched an eyebrow. "What is it, Dad?" Mark felt a brief flicker of doubt, but he pushed it aside. "We're going to host a Christmas feast but for people in need." He forced a smile, hoping for their support. His son, Jake, shrugged, can't we just donate money or something? This sounds like a lot of work. No, Jake. It's more than just donations. It's about connecting with the community, sharing what we have, and learning from their stories, Mark said, his voice steadying. He needed them to see this wasn't just about giving food. Emily looked like she was considering it, the spark of curiosity wavering in her eyes. Is this because of that woman you talked to? She asked, a hint of skepticism lacing her words. Yeah, it is. Grace opened my eyes to a lot today. He took a breath, trying to convey his earnestness. She taught me something really important. It's not about the money or the presents. It's about kindness and understanding each other. Mark could see the hesitation in their faces. They were used to a world where giving came with distance, a simple click on a screen rather than a personal touch. But he also sensed the tiniest flicker of interest in Emily. Fine, she said, dropping her phone onto the table. I'll help. But only if we can make my famous hot chocolate. Not just any kind, okay? A warm realization flooded Mark's chest. Of course. He felt a lightness he hadn't experienced in ages. And we can all pitch in to create some decorations too. Let South make this place feel welcoming. Jake hesitated, but after a moment he nodded. All right, I'm in. Just don't make me wear an elf costume or anything weird. As they gathered in the kitchen, laughter began to replace silence. The air filled with the sounds of chopping vegetables and playful banter. The smell of melted chocolate wafted through the house as Emily concocted her famous drink. Mark felt pride swell as he watched his children begin to transform. They tinkered with decorations, giggling as they hung garlands and made festive crafts. For the first time in what felt like ages, the family was creating memories together instead of scrolling past each other. Mark's heart swelled with hope, but alongside it came a twinge of worry. What if this was too late? Would this newfound connection last beyond the holidays? And what would Grace think when they invited her to the feast? As evening cloaked the sky in rich blues and purples, he gathered his family around the dining table, their hard work evident in the decorated space. Each plate set was not just a meal, but a symbol of their intention to reach out. Tomorrow, he said, voice steady with conviction. We change how we see people. We make connections. Love, not just charity. His children nodded, slowly understanding the depth behind his words. But just as the warmth of the moment settled, the doorbell chimed unexpectedly, slicing through the merriment. Mark exchanged glances with his kids. Who could it be? With anticipation thrumming in his chest, he moved to answer the door. As he opened it, he was met with a crowd gathered outside, eyes gleaming with curiosity and hope. Grace stood at the front, her smile radiant, a beacon in the night. Ready to share some Christmas magic? She asked, her voice threaded with excitement and openness. Mark realized in that moment, he was on the brink of something far greater than a simple feast. How far had his journey come in just a few hours? And how much further could it go? The evening was just beginning, but it felt like it was already changing everything. Mark stepped back, letting the snowy chill of the evening air swirl past him as the crowd shifted closer. The laughter in the kitchen began to fade behind him, replaced by the chatter of curious faces. Grace stepped inside, bringing with her an aura of warmth and purpose that seemed to fill the room. Everyone, this is Grace. Mark announced, beaming as he gestured toward her. She's been helping me understand what this feast can mean. Grace's eyes sparkled as she greeted each of his children with a gentle smile. Tonight is going to be special, she said, as if she already sensed the magic in the air. I can already feel it. Emily and Jake were still adjusting to the sudden turn in their evening, but the directness of Grace's presence had a way of breaking through. She looked at them with that kind of understanding that made you feel like your soul was laid bare. Mark watched as his daughter's skepticism softened slightly, and Jake, who usually held back, shifted nervously from foot to foot. Can we help? Jake finally asked, surprising even himself with the question. Grace's face lit up. Absolutely. The best way to connect is to get involved. I brought some things we can use: blankets, clothing, and some incredible recipes too. We're not just feeding people. We're sharing love. As they moved back toward the kitchen, the children moved closer to Grace, intrigued by her warmth. She began sharing stories, painting vivid pictures of those she had met on her own journey. A young boy who dreamed of being an artist, a grandmother with a cherished recipe passed down through generations, and a mother who had lost everything, yet still carried hope. Mark felt the atmosphere shift as the family drew in closer around Grace, ignited by her tales. Emily asked question after question, her curiosity replaced the skepticism bit by bit. Jake added details, excitedly seeing parallels with his own life, connecting on a human level that felt so raw and immediate. Is it true, what they say about Christmas magic? Emily asked, her voice quiet but intense. Christmas magic? Grace mused, a smile dancing on her lips. It's not found in the lights or the gifts. It's in the hearts of people willing to stand together, to share stories and experiences. That's where the true magic lives. Mark's heart raced. He had spent years chasing success, focusing on achievements, and here it was right in front of him, a genuine connection to humanity, effortlessly open and engaging. He realized that this wasn't just a feast, it was a chance to weave together lives that deserved recognition and appreciation. The children gathered materials while Grace coached them, mixing together flour and cocoa, laughing at their messy attempts at holiday treats. They were no longer just family, they were a part of something bigger. As the night deepened, Mark felt a shift within himself too. He was no longer nervous about Grace's thoughts or how his children would react. He was embracing the unknown, allowing himself to bask in the unexpected joy of humanity, connecting a bond he hadn't realized his family had been missing. Just as they began to assemble the final touches for their feast, with the kitchen filled with cheerful chaos, an unexpected noise echoed from outside. It was the faint sound of caroling, lifting up from the street below. The notes floated through the open window, drifting inside like a gentle reminder of what was to come. Grace turned to Mark, her eyes shining brightly. It seems the Christmas spirit is already here, knocking at the door. Are you ready to open up? Mark felt the tide of emotion swell within him, his heart pounding with anticipation. What would this night truly bring? But before he could respond, a loud crash of thunder reverberated through the air, startling everyone. The sounds of caroling were interrupted as dark clouds rolled overhead, casting a shadow on their festive preparations. Mark's pulse quickened. What's about to happen? Is this storm going to change everything they've built? As the wind howled outside, the guests at the door shifted uncomfortably, their eyes wide with uncertainty. Would they be ready for whatever awaited them out there? Mark's breath caught in his throat as the wind outside howled in fury. The laughter and joy they had built just minutes before felt fragile, like a thin layer of ice on a pond ready to crack. He glanced at Grace, who met his gaze with unwavering confidence. It was as if she could see beyond the storm, into the heart of what they were about to face. Don't worry, she said softly, the sincerity in her voice weaving a sense of calm through the chaos. Sometimes storms come to remind us to hold on to what matters. Mark nodded, trying to absorb her words. He watched as Emily and Jake exchanged glances, apprehension mixing with determination. Grace was right. They had come together tonight for something bigger than themselves. They had a purpose. Let us not let a little thunder ruin our spirit. Grace called out, rallying the troops. She swept her arms wide like a conductor at the start of a symphony. We have work to do. The children jumped back into action, encouraged by her infectious enthusiasm. Mark felt a surge of pride, his children embracing the moment instead of shying away from it. They were finding strength in one another, a lesson he'd almost forgotten in his pursuit of success. As the storm raged on outside, the kitchen transformed into a hub of activity. Flour dust filled the air, laughter mingled with the beat of the rain against the windows, and colorful decorations hung like vibrant jewels around the room. Grace guided them deftly as they crafted hot cocoa mix and baked treats, her presence lighting the dim corners of the kitchen. "Look at this!" Jake exclaimed, pulling a tray of cookies out of the oven. They were imperfectly shaped, yet still warm and inviting. Mark couldn't recall ever seeing his son so proud. "They're not perfect, but they sure look delicious." "Just like us," Grace winked, and everyone laughed. "Imperfections make us unique." Mark felt the weight of the world lift a little more, the storm outside fading now to a backdrop of sweetness and laughter. Yet, a part of him still worried about those waiting outside. How could they truly reach those who needed it if they weren't prepared for a storm like this? Just as he was about to voice his concerns, a sharp knock on the door sliced through the merriment. The laughter died down, replaced by a heavy silence. Shot through with tension, Mark looked at Grace, who nodded, as if giving him permission to bravely forge ahead. He walked to the door, heart pounding, and opened it slightly. A group of weary faces stood there, soaked from the rain yet hopeful. Each person wore a mixture of weariness and courage that struck Mark deep in his chest. Their eyes reflected lived experiences, stories waiting to be shared. "Can we help you?" he asked, his voice shaking but steady. There was a moment of hesitation, the kind that hung thick in the air, before an older woman stepped forward. Her face was lined with resilience, a testament to the life she had lived. "We heard there was a feast here tonight," she said softly, her voice barely rising above the wind. "We were hoping." Mark swallowed hard, the truth crashing over him. They had prepared for this feast, not just to fill bellies, but to embrace humanity. To share. He stepped back and opened the door wide, ushering them inside. "Come in," he said, suddenly feeling the gravity of the moment. "We have plenty to share." The children watched wide-eyed as the newcomers stepped through the threshold, their doubts falling away as Grace moved among the crowd like a gentle spirit, welcoming each person with open arms. Mark took a deep breath, sensing that this was only the beginning. The storm outside was fierce, but the warmth inside radiated hope. How were they going to blend these lives, each one unique, under one roof tonight? As the cozy room filled with chatter and laughter once more, Mark wondered how far this journey would take them. Not just tonight but beyond. Would these connections be enough to bridge the divide they had all faced for too long? And just then, as the room buzzed with new life, another thunderous crash echoed outside, rattling the window panes. Would the storm bring more than just rain and wind? Would they be tested in ways they hadn't expected? Mark leaned closer to Grace, feeling the swelling energy around them. "What else is in store for us tonight?" he whispered, heart racing. With her knowing smile, Grace replied, "Just wait and see." The atmosphere in the room shifted as the door closed behind the newcomers, sealing in warmth and the potent smell of cookies. Mark watched, half enchanted, as his children mingled with the weary guests. He felt like a spectator in a play where roles were shifting dramatically. The storm outside became a distant memory as connections were made inside, as fragile yet beautiful as glasswork. Grace had a way of making everyone feel welcome. She moved effortlessly between groups, her laughter peppering the air. Mark could see Emily listening intently to the older woman who had first stepped through the door, the woman with the lined face, who introduced herself as Ruth. Emily's bright eyes mirrored the fascination of youth, absorbing every word. "What was it like?" Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Mark strained to hear the reply. "Oh, sweet girl, life can be hard, but it's full of little wonders, too," Ruth responded, her voice warm despite the chill that had seeped in from outside. "Sometimes you have to look beyond the storm to appreciate the sunshine when it comes." Mark couldn't help but smile. She was right. They had all been searching for that sunshine in a world often overshadowed by uncertainty. "Hey, everyone! Who wants to help make more hot cocoa?" Grace called out, her eyes sparkling as she invited the guests to join in the activity. The kitchen suddenly became a merry scene of laughter, little hands stirring, and people working side by side. As he washed his hands by the sink, Mark felt part of something grander than just a feast. He glanced over at Jake, who was busy pouring chocolate powder into a steaming pot. "Look at that!" he exclaimed, pride swelling through his voice. "This is the best cocoa ever. We're going to serve the best feast." Mark's heart swelled, too. Yes, this was about food, but it escalated into something transcendent. It was about community and the shared human experience, illustrated through simple acts of kindness. Could a simple feast really change lives? The wind howled again, a loud warning that shook the foundations of the building. A flash of lightning illuminated the kitchen, creating an eerie shadow that danced around the room. Mark braced himself, unease creeping back in. The storm outside was growing, and he thought of the guests still out there, vulnerable to the elements. "Everyone, let us not forget those brave enough to come here," he reminded the group, raising his voice above the chatter. "We should pack up some boxes of goodies for those still outside." Cheers erupted around him. Grace nodded, her expression a mixture of approval and admiration. "That's the spirit. Let us share the warmth." As they packed up cookies and cocoa, Ruth approached Mark. "You're doing a good thing," she said softly, her eyes twinkling. "What you're building here tonight, it's more than just a gathering. It's a lifeline." "Maybe," Mark replied, emotional yet firm. "But sometimes, I wonder if it's enough." Before she could respond, the room erupted with laughter. Jake had just spilled cocoa powder everywhere, and it was a sight to behold. All the tension melted away, replaced by the warmth of togetherness. As the storm reached a fever pitch outside, Mark felt a pang of worry. The knocking at the door had shifted something within him, igniting a spark that he couldn't ignore. What else would tonight bring? Would those they helped be willing to share their own stories and struggles over the cocoa? Just then, another knock broke the cheerful mess of the kitchen. This one was softer, almost hesitant. Mark exchanged glances with Grace. An unspoken question lingered between them. He could feel his heartbeat quicken. Who else was out there, and what stories would they bring? "Should I get it?" Grace asked, her eyes wide with anticipation. "Together?" Mark offered, taking her hand. And as they walked toward the door, the energy in the room shifted again. There was an electric anticipation that filled the air. New faces would surely lead to new connections, and perhaps something profound was waiting just beyond that door. As Mark reached for the door handle, his heart raced. He could sense Grace's nervousness beside him. The joyful chaos of the kitchen felt like a distant island compared to the unknown beyond that wooden barrier. He exchanged a reassuring squeeze of her hand, hoping to calm both their nerves. With a deep breath, he turned the handle and pulled the door open, revealing a woman standing just outside. She appeared small, her frame hunched against the biting wind. Damp clothes clung to her frame, a stark contrast to the warm glow of the kitchen. Her hair, tangled and wild, framed a soft face that held stories etched into the lines of her skin. "Hello," she managed, her voice fragile but steady. I saw your lights and smelled the cocoa. It reminded me of something warm and comforting." Mark swallowed hard. "Come in, please. You're welcome here." Grace stepped aside, ushering the woman into the warmth of the kitchen. The laughter and camaraderie paused momentarily, the group turning to face the newcomer, curiosity and kindness swimming in their eyes. "Hi. I'm Grace," she said, her voice brightening again. "What's your name?" "Lily," the woman replied, hesitating at the threshold before stepping fully inside. A few moments passed like an eternity as the group assessed her, feeling the weight of her journey pressing against them. "Welcome, Lily." Jake beamed from the counter, his enthusiasm warming the atmosphere even further. "We're making cocoa. Want some?" Mark noticed the way Lily's eyes brightened at the mention of cocoa. "I'd love that," she replied, stepping fully into the kitchen, shedding the chill that had embraced her outside. As Grace moved to prepare a cup of cocoa, Mark caught a glimpse of her smile, a mixture of genuine kindness and relief. What a miraculous thing it was to turn strangers into friends, even if it started with a cup of warm cocoa. "You guys are so kind," Lily said, her voice trembling slightly. "I didn't expect this. I was just hoping to feel a moment of warmth. We all need that sometimes, don't we?" Ruth chimed in, her eyes gleaming with understanding. "What brought you out into this storm?" The question hung heavy in the air, but Lily seemed to grapple with the answer. Mark could see her searching for the words, and in that moment, a stillness enveloped the room. She began slowly. "I lost my job a couple of weeks ago, and it's been hard to make ends meet. I lost my place. I thought I could brave the storm, but it got the best of me." There was a collective sigh, an ache of sympathy shared among them. However, it wasn't pity that surfaced, it was a shared humanity. Mark could feel the tightening in his chest. He knew the struggle, even if his path had been different. "Sometimes, the storms come when we least expect them," Ruth shared, her voice rich with experience. "But it's important to hold on to the hope of sunshine that follows." Lily nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "I've just lost sight of it." Mark could feel the energy in the room shift, the profound connection being forged. It wasn't just about welcoming her into the warmth, it was about recognizing the strength in vulnerability, the grace in sharing burdens with one another. "Let us make sure you get a bit of that sunshine tonight, shall we?" Grace said, her voice firm yet soft. As the group began to buzz again, preparing more cups of cocoa, Mark noticed something magical in that moment. They were not just sharing food, they were sharing hope, kindness, and the promise of brighter days. But just as Lily began to relax, almost daring to smile at the connection that sparked, a distant rumble of thunder echoed through the kitchen, mimicking the storm raging outside. Mark turned his gaze towards the window, heart pounding again. Was it just the weather that threatened to change, or was there something deeper lingering in the air? He couldn't shake the feeling that tonight had more in store for them. "Let us hear your story, Lily," he suggested, his urgency unspoken yet clear. "What happened next?" Ruth asked, leaning forward in quiet anticipation. Lily opened her mouth to answer, but just then, the sound of a loud crash reverberated through the house, a sinister reminder of the storm's wrath. The lights flickered ominously. Mark's heart pounded in his chest. What new challenge awaited them? Would their budding connection withstand the trials that lingered just beyond the door? The kitchen fell silent, tension cooking in the air. Mark turned back to find Lily's eyes wide, her surprise mirroring his own. The lights flickered again as another crash of thunder shook the house, rattling dishes on the counter. Was it fear or anticipation that danced in their eyes? "I'm sorry," Lily murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean to bring the storm with me." "No, it's not your fault," Grace reassured her, stepping closer, her willingness to comfort wrapping around them like a blanket. "That thunder is just nature doing its thing." But Mark could feel a heaviness in the room, so much more than the storm outside. Each person seemed to share a story unspoken, weighed down by their own rain clouds. He glanced at the group, their faces cloaked in concern but also a growing resilience. "Maybe it's just a sign that we all need to lean into this," Mark said, trying to lighten the mood. "Let us not let a little thunder scare us away from a real moment together." "Yeah," Jake piped up, his voice bolstering the atmosphere. "What's better than being cozy with cocoa when the world outside is wild?" Lily allowed a hesitant smile to slip onto her lips, and Mark noticed how the tension shifted. It was unsettling, yet reassuring. The storm seemed to echo their own inner turbulence, reminding them they were all battling something, whether physical or emotional. "Why don't you tell us what you've been through, Lily?" Ruth suggested kindly, her warmth like the light illuminating the gathering. Lily looked around, uncertain at first. "It's just hard to share," she confessed. "Sometimes it feels like being swallowed by the storm is all that's left." Mark stepped closer, grounding the moment. You don't have to if you're not ready, but I think it would help. We're all struggling in our own ways. Maybe we don't have to go through it alone. With a deep breath, Lily nodded, her vulnerability shining through the apprehension. Alright, I lost my mom last year. And ever since, it feels like everything started to slip away. I didn't just lose her, I lost a part of myself. Mark's breath hitched. He felt that familiar ache, the one that came with loss, and he could see it mirrored in Grace's eyes. Ruth nodded knowingly, a memory flickering behind her gaze. I didn't have anywhere to turn after that, Lily pushed on, pain crackling in her voice. After my job fell apart, I just didn't know how to keep going. As Lily spoke, Mark realized every word was like peeling away layers. They were not just welcoming a stranger into their kitchen, they were opening a door to their own fears and dreams. You're not alone, Jake interrupted gently. We all have parents we miss. It's okay to feel lost, he shared, adamantly, holding his own memories at bay. Suddenly, the power flickered out completely, enveloping the room in darkness. Gasps filled the air, followed by the sound of chairs shuffling, punctuated by a single, vulnerable laugh from Lily. Looks like the storm is winning, she said, her quaking voice unexpectedly brightening the moment. What if we just sit in the dark? Grace proposed, filled with unexpected courage. Let us not worry about where we are or what we've lost. Let us be together. Mark could sense the fire of connection sparking anew within the pitch-black room. They leaned in closer, caring hearts surrounding Lily like a life raft. A loud crack echoed just beyond the window, and then a light flickered back to life, revealing faces of earnest concern and compassion shining through the gloom. Sometimes storms reveal the beauty we overlook, Ruth whispered, leaning against the counter, courage radiating from her eyes. As they shared quiet stories illuminated not just by the light bulb overhead, but the warmth of their connection, the sound of thunder felt less daunting. Just moments before it seemed something had broken. But then when Mark saw the slight smile on Lily's face, and heard the laughter flutter in the air, he felt the weight begin to lift. Maybe, Grace reflected softly, this storm has brought us the best gift yet, the chance to grow together. As they huddled closer, the atmosphere thick with shared wounds and healing, Mark knew this night would alter them all. But as the storm continued to howl outside, he sensed more than just the physical tempest, something deeper was brewing. With hearts full and spirits ignited, they realized that the real question was, what would tomorrow bring for all of them? Would the storm continue, or would it lead them towards something brighter? The storm raged outside, each gust of wind seeming to echo the vulnerabilities they had just shared. Mark felt a spark of hope mixed with uncertainty as he caught Lily's eye. The flickering light threw shadows across the room, emphasizing the determination brushing over their faces. Maybe we can share more stories, Jake suggested, eager to keep the momentum alive. Like a living book club, but better. Or we could play a game, Grace chimed in, her voice rising above the rumbles outside. Anything to lighten things up a bit. Lily laughed lightly, her earlier tension winding down. I'm not sure about games in the dark. I might accidentally break something. Mark chuckled, feeling the warmth of camaraderie budding between them. How about a round of questions? We take turns asking whatever comes to mind. It's a good way to know each other better. Yeah. Let us do it. Jake replied, his enthusiasm infectious. Lily's nervousness resurfaced momentarily, but it flickered away as she saw the open faces eager for connection. Okay, I'll start. Who's your biggest inspiration? As they took turns sharing their answers, Mark felt lighter, as if the storm outside was now less intimidating, a backdrop to their unfolding stories. Grace spoke about her grandmother, a woman who had weathered every storm with grace and grit. Jake reminisced about an old coach who saw potential in him even when he was ready to give up. Each revelation was honest and layered, providing a window into the lives of the ones who surrounded him. When it was Lily's turn again, she hesitated. I think my answer is my mom, she said softly. She was my compass, always guiding me. Now that she's not here, Mark could almost feel the heartache pulsing in the air. It's okay to miss her, he offered, his voice gentle, and it's alright to share those memories. They're part of us. After a moment, Ruth leaned forward, her tone serious yet soothing. And those memories can also guide you. It just feels so lonely without her, Lily confided, her voice quivering. I keep waiting for something to change, for life to feel normal again. But it's hard when every reminder pulls me back to the same sadness. Mark's heart ached for her. What if we help each other find our new normal? That simple thought clung to the air. They were a ragtag group of misfits, thrown together by chance and a storm. Maybe just maybe this was exactly what they needed. All right, Lily said, confidence creeping back into her voice. If we're going to tackle this together, maybe we should also each share one thing we want to achieve by next year. Like our own personal resolutions. Everyone nodded, the excitement bubbling through the darkness. Okay, I'll go first, Jake began, a grin spreading across his face. I'm going to get back in shape. I lost my motivation, but it's time to reclaim that, maybe even run a half marathon. Grace leaned forward, I want to start writing again. I used to love it but got scared of what others might think. Time to put my voice out there. Each person shared their hopes and struggles, and as the stories filled the space, Mark felt an incredible energy between them. It was electric. The storm outside became a distant memory, and they found strength in their shared dreams and laughter, but just then, a particularly forceful gust howled outside, rattling the windows. The lights flickered again and then dimmed, leaving them in the dark once more. It's okay, just nature, Jake said, trying to reassure them, though Mark saw the uncertainty flash across his face. In the silence that followed, an unexpected thought crept into Mark's mind. What if the struggles they faced were not just storms waiting to pass but signs leading them somewhere they had yet to discover? Maybe, he started, unsure if he should voice it, maybe all this is happening for a reason. What if the storm pushes us to explore something we've been ignoring? As they sat in the dark, he felt the pull of new possibilities stirring within him, an unseen force beckoning them forward. While the thunder rumbled outside, a spark ignited inside, and he couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of something greater. What awaited them out there, after the storm? And what truths might they unearth, together? The wind howled again, a fierce reminder of the storm just beyond their walls. It was as if the universe was listening to them, challenging them to pursue whatever it was they had been ignoring. Mark shifted uncomfortably, the weight of his own thoughts pressing on him. He could feel a connection to Lily, Grace, and Jake, knowing that each of them carried their own unspoken fears and dreams. Why not lead with something more personal? Grace suggested, breaking the silence that had draped itself over them. Instead of our goals, what if we talk about something we've never told anyone? Mark's heart raced. Was he ready to share something so deep? But the look in Grace's eyes filled with genuine kindness gave him courage. I'll go first, he said, his voice steady despite the tremor of uncertainty. When I was in high school, I struggled a lot with feeling like I didn't belong. My parents had high expectations, and I felt trapped under the weight of them. He paused, taking a breath. I started acting out to cope. I was angry, and I took it out on people who tried to get close to me. Jake frowned, his expression softening. I get that. I did similar things, almost lost my closest friends. I ended up pushing them away, Mark continued. And then, one day, after one too many fights, I realized I was all alone. It was a dark time for me. Lily leaned forward, her eyes searching his. How did you break out of that? He shrugged, feeling a mix of nostalgia and tenderness. I had a teacher who wouldn't give up on me. She saw through my bluster and just kept encouraging me to express myself. It was her support that made me realize I needed to let people in. That anger, it was just fear dressed up in a bit of bravado. That's really vulnerable, Grace said, her voice soft yet strong. "Thank you for sharing that." Jake filled the silence, though the light-heartedness had returned. "I'll step up too. For a long time, I was that kid who worked hard but couldn't see the light at the end. Each loss felt like I was walking in circles. I found myself at a low point, alone and stuck." The air felt heavier, as if they were all realizing the common threads that bound their experiences together. What had started as innocent games had morphed into something deeper and more significant. Lily's brow furrowed. "I think I've been ignoring my struggles too. But I want to change that. I want to be more open with my feelings, but it scares me. What if no one understands?" Mark reached for her hand, prompted by an instinct that felt right. "We understand more than you think. You're not alone in this, and you don't have to face it by yourself." Her eyes shimmered in the dim light, reflecting gratitude. "Thank you, but I'm still afraid." "Fear can lead to growth if we let it," Grace interjected. "Maybe this storm is our catalyst. What if it truly pushes us towards the changes we need?" As they each nodded, the storm continued to rage outside, but inside, it felt like a shared warmth wrapped around them. Each barely spoken truth became a seed to cultivate hope and resilience. But just then, a loud, crashing noise echoed from the kitchen. The sound broke through the bubble they had created, a stark reminder of the chaos outside. What was that? Jake jumped up, his eyes wide. Mark felt his heart race again, not just from fear but from a sense of urgency. There was something out there that demanded their attention, perhaps something that could draw them deeper into their revelations or confront them with challenges they had yet to face. He took a deep breath. "I think we should check it out together. Whatever it is, we can handle it." The storm outside roared like a beast, but as they stood united, a realization washed over Mark. With friends beside him, together they could face whatever awaited them behind the kitchen door. What would they discover in the heart of the storm, and how might it reshape what they had just learned about each other? Mark led the way into the kitchen, instinctively grounding himself as the wind howled outside. The cacophony from the storm mixed with the noise inside their home, but amid the chaos, it felt like they were forging a new sense of belonging. They pushed through the door together, anticipation thrumming in the air. The kitchen presented a whirlwind scene. Flour dusting the floor from Jake's earlier mishap was littered with stray decorations, and the steaming pots of cocoa bubbled softly on the stove. But what caught Mark's eye was a shattered window, glass fragments scattered like constellations, the chilling breeze gusting through the opening. A sudden wave of worry welled up inside him. Lily's gaze darted to the window, anxiety tightening her features. "What if someone gets hurt out there?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper, reflecting the storm's ferocity. Mark took a steady breath, feeling the weight of her concern. "We'll clean it up," he assured her, but deep down he felt the urgency rise. Heart racing, he walked over to the window to survey the damage. "Is everyone okay?" Grace's voice echoed from behind, nerves apparent as she assessed the sudden situation. "What do we do now?" Mark turned back, lifting a hand to calm the buzzing energy in the kitchen. "We need to act fast," he responded, his tone steadying everyone's nerves. "Let us secure this window so the cold doesn't drive us all back. Then we'll finish preparing for our guests." As they scrambled to find supplies to patch the window, the chaotic energy shifted to a collaborative spirit. Jake hurried to fetch towels, while Emily rallied to gather tape and anything that could serve as makeshift insulation. Mark glanced around at his children, their unexpected determination lighting a fire in his heart. They were not only facing the chaos together, they were embracing it as a challenge. Something fundamental shifted inside him, and he could feel that they were becoming a family once more, enjoying the intensity of life and the bittersweet sweetness of shared experiences. Once the wind was somewhat blocked, they effortlessly returned to joy, teasing each other with stories of their childhood blunders and baking attempts, laughter punctuating their efforts. "Let us keep those cocoa pots warm," Lily called, tapping into the joy ushered in by community. How can we spread that warmth outside? Let us make that count. Mark felt a ripple of inspiration flow through him at her words. They had enough hot cocoa and treats, and tonight's struggle had taught him that it wasn't just about feeding bellies, it was about spreading kindness to souls who needed it. Yes. Mark felt a surge of excitement capture him. What if we take our baked goods out to the street? There may be others who need some warmth, just like us. This storm may have pushed us together, but we can bring that spirit to our community. Jake's eyes softened as he nodded. That's exactly what we should do. Let us grab some of everything we can. Who knows who we might reach? Together, they prepared trays of cookies and steaming cups of cocoa, ensuring they filled boxes and bags to the brim. The laughter filled the kitchen as they worked quickly and efficiently, a vibrant buzz of shared purpose illuminating the space. Ready? Grace grinned when everything was packed, her enthusiasm contagious. Mark felt the celebration of camaraderie electric in each heart and smiled at everyone around him. Their faces glowed with anticipation and courage. Let us spread that Christmas magic, he urged, his voice filled with conviction. They ventured outside, the rain falling in heavy sheets, but Mark felt lighter than air. As they approached the door, voices of the community mingled within the world of stormy uncertainty, heavy with need and hope. Isn't this wild? Emily shouted, laughter ringing out as a gust of wind tossed her hair. We can do this together. They stepped out and approached those huddling nearby, offering food and warmth freely. Could we share a meal? Mark called out, extending the trays toward those standing in the rain. Faces turned, revealing a mix of shock and then gratitude at their unexpected generosity. One older gentleman stepped forward, eyes glistening. Are you serious? Food and warmth, right here? Absolutely, Mark affirmed, his heart soared. We didn't want anyone to miss out on Christmas because of a storm. The crowd moved closer, drawn in by the kindness and laughter radiating from the small group. As his family interacted with the people around them, Mark felt like the storm was more than just wild weather, it was a bridge, connecting lives lost in isolation, wrapping them all together in shared humanity. Humans came together, obstacles fell away, and laughter replaced apprehension. They shared stories of hopes and dreams, and an uplifting spark filled the space between them as the storm raged on. That's the magic of the season, an onlooker remarked, finding light in darkness. And Mark knew it was the truth woven through each shared storyline, the beauty of compassion lighting even the bleakest of nights. From one life-changing encounter with Grace, they had turned their house into a haven of warmth that radiated to those outside. As the night went on, they shared stories, laughter, and a genuine sense of connection. Mark started to feel the weight of his past melt away as the room filled with love. In this moment, despite any turmoil outside, his heart brimmed with hope, one that he never wanted to fade. Tomorrow would come, and while storms may come and go, the bonds forged tonight would carry through the toughest times. The journey wasn't merely about changing a single life, it was about embracing life, hand in hand. Just as they began to laugh and share a story of triumph over a mishap in the kitchen, they heard a faint melody carried by the wind, harmonizing with their laughter carols. Someone outside was singing. Mark smiled, real joy blooming inside him. They gathered together, feeling as though the world had opened a door for them, an entire community sharing in the warmth of togetherness, lighting the path ahead, through any storm. Moments stitched with grace and connection had bound them in the most beautiful way imaginable, and now, they were ready for whatever lay on the horizon of their new reality. As the echoes of laughter rang out, the storm subsided, revealing a world transformed just beyond the threshold. Who's ready to sing? Grace asked, her voice bright and cheerfully welcoming. Let us bring the house down. Jake exclaimed, the frenzy of joy contagious. Mark took a step forward, his heart brimming with gratitude. Yes, let us sing. Together. And as the echoes of joy filled the night, pieced together with grace, Mario knew one thing: they would face whatever tomorrow brought, together, as a family. You need to subscribe now to keep following these transforming stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share.